Welcome back or welcome to my channel. My name is Shannon and today I am here to share with you all things about pumping breast milk for your little one. I really have lots of information on this topic because I had two very different experiences with my boys. With my first, who is now 7, he 100% refused to latch. He was just not about that life. And so I ended up exclusively pumping for him for 6 months of his life. Unfortunately, I was not producing enough for him to just be exclusively fed breast milk. So we did a combination of formula and breast milk, where we decided to do breast milk at home so I could really control the bottles. And then at daycare, he drank formula. This really helped my anxiety because we were able to control the breast milk that he was getting at home. We were able to make sure that if anything was left over past its window of being good, that we could save it and use it for a bath, which was really nice. But it was definitely a heightened experience. I did not know what I was doing. I had no concept of how often I was supposed to really be pumping and like sticking to that schedule. And so I was always stressed out about having enough breast milk for him and then feeling that like failure of needing to use formula, though formula is freaking amazing. And so it was just overall a very stressful 6 months of my life. And once I decided to be done, I truly felt like I was finally his parent because I could just focus on taking care of him and taking care of myself. So that was a really tough journey for me. With my second, it's 100% different experience. My youngest came out ready to eat. Like, we were still in the OR for my C-section, and that boy was hungry. He was like, let's go. We got to post-op, and he was like, feed me now, people. So he immediately latched on. He was ready to eat. And so he was exclusively breastfed through nursing for the first 2 months of his life. And then we started adding on a session every evening where I would pump after nursing him. We were able to replace 1 feed a night with a bottle. So I would be pumping while Dad was feeding him. And so that way we stayed on schedule, but he got used to using a bottle before he went to daycare. And we really did pretty much only breast milk between breastfeeding, so between nursing and pumping breast milk for him for the first 9 months of his life. Then after that, we started using a combination of my breast milk stash and then formula for him. And so we really had that combination for him in the end, which worked out perfectly for us. I would say from my experience, pumping breast milk for your child is amazing. It can be extremely stressful and it can be extremely expensive. And I would say sometimes I have debated the cost that I have done for pumping for both boys versus feeding them formula. I wanted to make this very clear. I have no qualms about formula whatsoever. For me, the most important things is that baby's fed and mom is taken care of. So formula, yay all the way. But sometimes people like to use that argument of like nursing or pumping is cheaper than formula. I don't feel like that's always the case, if I'm being honest, because there's so many things you need to set yourself up for success. And then depending on your pumping journey, there might be extra things, maybe supplements you want to purchase to help with your supply. Those things add up so quickly. So let's jump on in and we're going to talk about all the things that I felt made me feel really successful in my pumping journeys. I have passed on or let go of all these products by now because my youngest is now 2 and we stopped that journey of pumping when he was 9 months. So it's been a while. And so I am going to pop up for you pictures of any of the products I'm talking about. So they'll pop up here on the screen for you. And then I'll have everything linked down below in the description box. So if you're liking an item, want to try it out, you can find the link there. Okay, let's start off straight with a pump. I love the Spectra S2. And so the difference between the Spectra S1 and the Spectra S2 is that the S1 has a battery, S2 does not have a battery. So it means S2 always has to be plugged into the wall, where the S1 does not. Truthfully, I didn't find it that big of an inconvenience having it needing to be plugged in, because typically with most pumping setups, you're going to be stationary anyway. But I was able to buy an external battery pack to hook up to my pump. So when I traveled for conferences with some of my students, I could hook up that battery pack to my pump and be able to pump in the van I drove them in or at the conference without needing an outlet. So there are ways to make the S2 more portable without needing an outlet. Now, really, if you live in the US, go and double check with your insurance right away to see what pumps your insurance covers. In the US, as of right now when I'm filming this video, we still get one free breast pump with every pregnancy. And so it's important, depending on your insurance, they will let you know which ones they cover. And so sometimes there is 100% coverage on different pumps. Sometimes if you're wanting a pump that is a higher price point, they'll cover up to X amount and then you pay the difference. So really call your insurance and find out what they cover. For the most part, I did both times find that process to be a bit annoying, like calling your insurance and then your representatives don't know and you're being transferred over and over again. There are some online websites that you can utilize that will help you through that process as well. The one I used with my first no longer exists, and that one was amazing. With my second, I just dealt with being on hold with the insurance a lot. I just kind of planned a day where I could do it. But you know, make it work. A free pump is way better than spending your money on a non-free pump. But really, when you're thinking of getting your first breast pump, I would recommend getting something that is hospital grade. So Spectra, Medela, I think there's a few other brands that are really meant to help you extract your breast milk, versus getting one that is a wearable pump. Those are typically not hospital grade pumps. Some of them work really well and they might not work well for you. So wearable pumps, they can be awesome. They allow you to just put them in your bra and you can walk around and do all the things and do chores as long as you maintain your posture. That's the one thing about pumping, is you always have to like sit up and like slightly lean forward, and so your back hurts a little bit. I will always recommend Spectra as a fantastic pump brand because it was so easy both times to get parts for those pumps. I really appreciated how you could find the name brand and also some non-name brand ones that I'm going to share with you in a moment that were way better for the price point. And so Spectra is just an easy pump to use. It's very user-friendly, and there's tons of different videos and guides online to help you through using it. I did luck out with both pregnancies. I truly decided to get a Spectra for both. So I had one when I had my oldest and one when I had my youngest. And so what I decided to do is have one pump at home, and I had one pump that I was able to keep at work for myself. So since I had an office job with my own desk area, I just had a bag that I kept there with extra parts and my pump that I deemed my office pump. So then I was only carrying back and forth with me clean pump parts, dirty pump parts, and then the actual milk. So that made my bag a lot lighter and made my life a lot easier already having a pump set up at work. So if you have multiple kids, that could be an option too if you choose to go that route. Now let's talk about all the products that I feel really made my pumping journey successful. And some of them might be random, but I will explain them for you. So the first thing is baby wipes. Baby wipes are so useful, not just for your little one, but for you as well. When you're done pumping and you're unhooking yourself, you are going to be a bit wet. So having a baby wipe is really nice because you can clean up any milk on yourself. Or if you're taking apart your pump parts and pouring your milk, if you have any dribbles or spills, using baby wipes makes it so much simpler just to clean it up. So I would always keep a pack of baby wipes in my bag. I'd use maybe 1 or 2 per pumping session at work, or if I was out and about, just to make it easier. And then I usually kept a pack on my nightstand at home for when I did pump at home, just to make life simpler. Now, I also found a great thing for me when I was pumping out and about, so when we traveled or when I was pumping at work, was I got an actual nursing cover that I could put over. It kind of felt like it was an apron in the most part because you just pop it over your head and then it was kind of this tent thing. And I got one so that I could pump at work really easily. Now, I, by my own choice, pumping at work, decided to pump at my desk for my second pumping journey, versus with my first, I was very, very private about it. With my second, I was so much less stressed, so I felt comfortable pumping at my desk. My colleagues in my office did not mind, and so I just would put that nursing cover on and be able to pump at my desk, be able to do my meetings, continue on with my work, because that made it less stressful for me. They offered areas for me to go and pump, but for me it was less stressful just to work through my pumping sessions. And so I decided to get one that's a little muslin cover, like the muslin baby blankets, because it was lighter and it helped keep me not overheat while I pumped. So that is the one I recommend that I'll link down below. Now let's talk about pump parts. You do not need to just buy the name brand pump parts from your pump company. So Spectra does sell tons of replacement parts on their website, which is awesome. But I found 3 other companies that I liked better that I could order through Amazon or through their website that were just so much more affordable, especially with my first, because I was pumping exclusively for him around the clock. I was needing to change out my pump parts pretty frequently. And with my second, I liked having lots of pump parts. I very much was the person who did not like cleaning my pump parts throughout the day. So I would bring enough pump parts, so enough different flanges, everything for each pumping session. And then I would take them all home from work at the end of the day, all the dirty ones, wash them at night, bring them back to the office the next day. That just made my life easier, not having to clean everything in between each pumping session. Yes, it was an expense, but it made my life easier, so I did it. So the 3 brands I recommend looking into are momma. I would get flanges, my duck bills, little silicone membranes. Those were fantastic getting through momma through Amazon. Nezi Supply is also another great one for getting pump cards. And Palpic. I'm not sure if I'm saying these names right, but those were my top 3. I'm gonna link them down below, where I was able to get parts that perfectly worked with my Spectra for a fraction of the price. So whenever I had to, purchase new parts, it didn't feel as big of a hit, because for most of them, I could buy a full set of parts in one go with them for half the price than I'd be paying if I bought the name brand. So don't be afraid to look for off-branded parts for your pump. Make sure you are always checking the reviews, because people will tell you in the reviews if they do not work well with the actual pump. And if it doesn't work for you, make sure you leave a review so people know. Now, something I love that helped with sometimes with letdown or soreness was the Lansanu breast therapy packs. And so these were packs that you could pop either in the microwave or you could put them in the freezer, so you could have them hot or cold, and they came with little covers and you could just pop them into your bra. Sometimes heat helps relax, whether you had clogs or you need help with your letdown. Sometimes the coolness was really great if you had a clog or just soreness. Very versatile. Even after I was done with my pumping journeys, we still use those as ice packs in our house. I'm pretty sure we still have a set in the freezer right now, because they're just like the perfect size if your kid gets an owie, and they come with a little cover, so it makes it so much easier. So it's a great find to get, to just be able to have them if you need them, and they're ice packs or heat packs, so they can be used outside of just your pumping journey. I also liked silverettes. So when you're first starting your pumping journey or nursing, you get very raw. And silverettes are literally like little silver discs that you can pop into your bra to cover the sore areas. And they kind of help with some healing properties. I felt like they worked. Some people love them more than others, but they're a great item to look into, especially if you're feeling some of that rawness and soreness in the beginning. It's just a nice little extra between you and your bra or a nursing pad, so you're not having fabric rub against you when you're already sore. Speaking of soreness, the Medela Hydrogel pads are also amazing for that. So if you are having soreness, if you're having cracked and chafing nipples, the Medela Hydro pads, they stick onto you. It's like a little silicone sheet. It's very healing. It's nice and keep the fabric away from you, and just soothing properties. And so they're not something that you can use over and over again, but they're a great investment if you're having any discomfort in that area. With that, I also loved Earth Mama nipple cream. This is my favorite product that I use for pumping. It's 100% natural and organic, so you can use it for if you're nursing, you can use it for if you're pumping. I actually liked with pumping, I would on my phalanges, where you have your flange and where you actually go, I would put a very light layer on the inside of the flange, and that way it kept any friction happening from me. And I use that with both pumping journeys. It is coconut oil, so you could use straight coconut oil if you wanted to, but this was less, I want to say oily. And so it was really great with pumping. Neither of my boys had any issues with it. It was healing for me as well. So Earth Mama Nipple Bottle Cream, amazing product. You can get them in smaller jars or bigger jars. It's just really healing for you, but also can help with that friction when you are pumping. Some people like to lubricate their phalanges, some people don't. Personal preference. I would say give it a try, just you never know. Now, when it comes to having all your milk and you've pumped all this milk throughout the day, whether you're at work, you're just pumping at home or out and about, I really like being able to store my milk in the fridge in containers and then mix it all together into a pitcher prior to either then making bottles from it, or bagging it to freeze. And so the Dr. Brown formula pitcher is actually amazing for this. You can use it for making formula, or you could use it for breast milk. What I loved with the breast milk is you could pour in all the bottles, and then you could use it to pump, and it stirred everything in, so the fat content got redistributed throughout all of it. So when we were making bottles or making bags to freeze, every single bottle got great nutrients, got great fat supply, everything was well mixed. And so it wasn't, oh, my morning pump is fattier, so here's some fatty bags or bottles. It was nice to evenly distribute that throughout everything. Now, when it came to pumping on the go or pumping with work, I loved having a specific pumping backpack. Now, I usually will always be the person to say, just get a regular backpack. But I really enjoyed with my second experience of having a pumping backpack. So I got the V-Cool breast pump pack one, and this allowed where on the top part of the backpack, I could put my actual Spectra pump and all my parts would fit in there. And then on the bottom, it was a cooler, so I would have ice packs in there. And so I really looked out at my office. I would be able to put my ice packs in the main freezer, and then at the end of the day, all my pumping stuff would come out of the fridge. I could take everything home and it would stay chilled by the time we got home. But also if we were out and about and I decided to pump versus nursing, I could pump, put it in already into that cool zone with the ice packs, and the milk would stay fresh. So it was just a great option having that cooler already built in a space that could fit my pump, because not every bag can fit the same pumps correctly. So if you're looking for a pump bag, make sure you read in the reviews if it can fit your actual pump, because pumps are all different sizes and some are not made for some of the other ones. Now, when it came to actually pumping clothing wise, I am a big millennial tank top person. So it's called, people call it the millennial security tank top, where you wear a tank top under your clothes. That is totally me. So I actually liked pumping tank tops. So Ruma Store Essentials has a great one through Amazon, and Ingrid and Isabel, I love their entire maternity line. If you can get your hands on it, sometimes it's hard to find, but they also have a pumping tank top. And so both of these I got, and so I could just wear them under my clothes. They were able to either nurse through them, so they had both supports to either nurse or to pump. And so that way I didn't have to fully change or wear a pumping bra all day. These still had enough support. Now I don't have, I'm not very well endowed, so I didn't need as much support, but these worked out really well, especially if I was out traveling or for work. I could just pull up my regular shirt and I had my pumping tank top on. I liked that my stomach was covered, because if you just wear a pumping bra, your stomach is uncovered when you're pumping. And so it made it so much simpler for me. And so those really made my pumping journey, especially with my second, easier, because I did not have those with my first. So they were a great find. Now for regular just pumping bras, I do love the Bomb Cozy pumping bras. They're very comfortable, very easy to wear. If you're gonna wear it all day, they're fantastic. But like I said earlier, I liked having the tank tops better because I liked having my stomach covered when I pumped. It just made me feel more comfortable and secure. Okay, so if you've watched my channel before and watched some of my baby registry videos, you've heard me talk about this, but wet bags. I love wet bags. We use them for all the things in our household, but for pumping, they are amazing. So what I would do is I would have 2 wet bags that were dedicated just to my pump parts. So if I was traveling or going to work, I would have 2 wet bags. One would have all my clean parts for the day, and one would be for all my dirty parts. So once they were used, I could put the dirty parts in the dirty bag. And what I love with wet bags is they're easy to use. You can throw them in with your regular laundry to wash them. Typically what I did, since they had designs on them, they had different patterns. The clean bag just stayed the clean bag, the dirty bag stayed the dirty bag. And then at the end of the week, I would wash the bags in with our regular laundry, and it worked out perfectly fine. Now these are also great because they're wet bags, so if there's any wetness, any liquid still in the pump parts, it's not getting out of the wet bag onto your other items. They're not leaking, and so it was nice to have parts safe and secure, but also know that nothing was gonna spill. Now, especially when I was out pumping at work or pumping in different places, I also liked having a mat to put my pump parts on. So as you're assembling your pump parts, you want to put them together and put them on a clean surface. And I didn't want to always have to clean my desk or clean my bedside table. That's just extra work. So I'd have a mat that was cool, fully machine washable as well, just like the wet bags, that I could put all of my pumping items on. So when I was assembling them to put them on or taking them off and then getting ready to pour the milk, I had a safe, clean surface for them. And so I really would recommend a mat for your pump parts. If you don't want to do a mat, another option that I did quite a few times was using a burp cloth. So I'd have a clean burp cloth that I could put down and use for putting my pump parts on and off, so it's just another safe area. Especially if you have a ton of burp cloths, it's an easy use because we use burp cloths all the time. Might as well use one for your pumping. Now, a great read that I found helped me with my pumping journey was the Lactivate Guide to Breastfeeding. Now, this more focused on breastfeeding than pumping. It did have some pumping tips on it, but what I really liked about it for pumping was it gave you a really good insight to how milk is very much supply and demand, how your baby needs it at different stages, and so it's just some great background information for you to have as you're doing your pumping journey, whether or not you're direct nursing. So that's the Lactivate Guide to Breastfeeding. It's a great, easy read to read while you're pregnant or while you're pumping to help you out on your journey. Now let's talk about measuring. This is one of the least talked about parts of pumping, is that you need to make sure you measure for your actual flanges, because there's different flange sizes for everybody, and it is the size of your nipple area. And that can change. It's gonna be one size during pregnancy, one size after birth, it's gonna be maybe another size a few months later. People change based on hormones and how far postpartum they are. And so I found was really helpful is actually just getting a circle round stencil. It took me back to drafting class in high school. But just getting a stencil where you're able to use it to size yourself. I recommend watching videos on YouTube about how to use them, because you want to make sure you're getting the right size, and sometimes those size that fits you is not what comes with your pump. Your pump usually comes with a 24 millimeter or 28 millimeter flange size. Now, those don't fit everybody. For me, my first journey, my size that was perfect was actually a 19. And then with my second journey, the size that was perfect was a 21. And so you can see just there between my two pregnancies, I had different sizes. And some days, depending on my hormones, that would go up or down. So I would make sure I had some of the other sizes anytime I felt like my flange was too tight or it was way too loose, so I could try that out and intermingle them. So being able to measure is really helpful as you're going through your journey, because it does change. It's so frustrating because then you need to buy more parts. But if you're able to adjust, you're able to measure yourself, you can make it easier. Now, as we talked about with pumping, you have all these parts. So you have the flange, you have the little duck bills maybe, you have the actual bottles that you're going to be pumping into, maybe different containers and lids, so many things, and then bottles. What I really loved on our journey with my first, and we still have this, is a collapsible bin that we're able to use for washing pump parts and bottles. So this collapsible bin, we're able to just fit it on one side of our sink and put all the items in, then let them soak a little bit in dish soap and then clean them so they stayed sanitary. That bin was just for those items, no other dishes, no food scraps are getting into it. It was just dedicated to my pumping items and our bottle items. And now, past using bottles and pumping, we still use it all the time. I'll use it if I'm washing the boys' hats, if I'm washing certain toys. It's just a nice little space to wash things in that's not your main sink. Now, something I also found helpful on my second journey, since I was doing so much more successful on my second journey, was a pump log. So I ordered a pump log book off of Amazon, and I specifically used this for only logging what I was freezing. I liked that because it let me know how much I was putting into our deep freezer. So I could add the date, the ounces, how many bags it was. And so I had a good idea of how many ounces I actually had in our deep freezer. And so I wasn't just guessing. I could be like, oh, I have 400 ounces of breast milk in there. He drinks 4 ounces per bottle right now. That would equal X amount of bottles. Being able to have that kind of security blanket was really nice for me, just having that logged. I wasn't logging every single pump because I feel like that would get my anxiety going. With my first, I used an app and I logged every single pump output, and it just drove me crazy. I was not doing well in that pumping journey, and so then seeing the small numbers made me feel like a failure. And so I don't recommend that if you're struggling, or you're having a tough time, you're having anxiety. Don't log it. Just do your thing and then supplement with formula as needed. But for freezing, it was really nice to know what I had. Speaking of freezing, we got a deep freezer for my stash, which now we use for food. So we had already kind of planned to get one, but we just dedicated it to breast milk at first. And in there, I got 2 items. I got a regular thermometer that was meant for being in the freezer so we can know the temperature. And then I got this really cool one that was like a little cylinder. You put water in it and it had a ball that floated on top. And what was great with that is that if it got unplugged, if something happened, the power went out, and it defrosted, the little ball would move down. So then I would know, hey, I need to check all of this breast milk and see if it's still good or not. Because once breast milk thaws, you need to use it within about 24 hours or it's no longer good. Like the nutrients, there's scientific things that happen. And so I really liked having both those items. I typically was freezing at least a bag a day so I could go out there and check it. I chose not to get a wireless thermometer. I know a lot of people love those, but I could not find one that the reviews did not say that people were having false alarms. With my anxiety, I could not handle false alarms. If it was going off in the middle of the night or it was going off in the day when I wasn't home saying, oh no, your freezer's unplugged, I'd be freaking out. So for me, it was better to just like let destiny take the wheel, have the thermometer, have the cool little thing that would tell me, visually if the thing defrosted, and just let it ride. So the last 2 things I want to talk about with pumping that I felt were great for my journey was breast milk bags. So I really love the Target brand or the Lantano brand. Those 2 I felt were the best for me to use, especially with storing breast milk in bags. Now, really always remember with breast milk storage bags, never use the measurements on the bag. I have never found one that works perfectly. Always measure the breast milk in a bottle first before you put it in the bag. That way you are able to know exactly how much is in there based on the bottles you already use. So what I would do is as I was getting all my pumps done for the day, I would dump all those pumps into the Dr. Brown's pitcher. I would mix them up. And then I would measure out in a bottle or 2, the breast milk that I was gonna freeze. I'd then be like, okay, we got 4 ounces measured into this bottle. I would write on the bag the date, the amount of ounces, and then I would pour that bottle into the bag. Now, something that's really helpful for pouring a bottle into a bag is if you have phalanges, or they're ones that are just the top of the flange and it's not the entire piece. Especially sometimes if you get the Medela hand pump, it comes with flanges that are that size. You can use them as a little funnel. So that was really nice. You could hold the bag, you have your little funnel, and then easier pour. Way less mess, way less times that I spilled breast milk using that method. And then I could go ahead. Your best bet is to try to flatten out all the air and flatten the bag as you're zipping it. And then you want to lay your breast milk bags flat in the freezer. You're not wanting to let them go straight up because then they're going to get like this and it's going to be awkward for freezing and storing them. You want to lay them flat. But your goal is always to get the most air out as possible. And there's different methods for that. I know some people would use methods of like leaning on the counter. Some people would do, tons of different things. You can find YouTube's videos about it. But the less air in it, the better, because more air equals potential for freezer burn. Which some milk gets freezer burn. You can mix it in with non-freezer burn milk. And then depending on your baby, they may or may not drink it. It just depends. But get as much air out as possible. Lay them flat in your freezer. So I would tend to lay them flat in our interior freezer. We have a drawer that is supposed to be used for ice, but we don't have it hooked up to a water source to have ice. So I lay them all flat in there. And then the next day I'd collect them all. Once I had about 8-10 bags, I'd make a brick in a big Ziploc bag. And then I could label that bag and take it out to our deep freezer in the garage. And that just made life so much easier. So remember, your goals are to get good bags, get everything you can get in without spilling. If you spill, it's okay, and it's okay to cry. Label everything and then store it. Now, what I did find helpful prior to this whole process is at work and at home, I got a small basket that I had in our fridge that as I collected my milk for the day before I was going to put it in my pitcher, I would put it in that basket. That way it was just organized, and you want to keep breast milk towards the back of the fridge as possible because you want to keep it cold. If you're keeping it in the door, if you're keeping it too close to the front, the temperature changes too much and that could be not good for the milk. So I always had the basket towards the back of the fridge at my work fridge and at home. That way the breast milk stayed safe. It stayed at the most consistent temperature as possible. So then when I was ready to put it in the pitcher, make bottles for the next day or freeze. It stayed a good temperature the entire time. Alright y'all, so those were my main tips and products I used to have a successful pumping journey. Like I mentioned before, I had a way tougher journey with my first than with my second, and I really feel it was because I had so much more knowledge. I watched tons of YouTube videos, I read books, just trying to learn everything I could to be prepared with my second. But also, it depends on the baby too. You know, my first didn't want to latch. He was not interested in eating. My second was like, let's go, feed me now. Even with the bottle, he was like, cool beans, I'm still getting my milk. You know, it depends on how your body's doing, your journey, the knowledge, staying consistent with pumping times, and your baby. Every journey is going to be different. If you have any products or tips that you'd like to share with everybody that you felt made your journey successful, or stories you want to share of things that you felt made your journey not successful, please add them to the comments below. Let's share and be a resource for one another. If you like this video and you'd like to see more content, please feel free to like this video and follow my YouTube channel. I also create YouTube shorts and short content every single day on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, so you can follow me there as well. I hope you all have a wonderful day and that you're staying healthy.